Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me. My name is Adrian Bauman from the School of Public Health and the Prevention Research Collaboration. We've got a short seminar today for the next hour on some Danish examples of developing health promotion projects using systems approaches, using traditional health promotion principles. I'm delighted we've got several colleagues from Denmark today who are visiting because they've been at the ICO conference in Melbourne, and you'll be hearing from them about some of their examples. Just briefly to acknowledge country, acknowledge that we're meeting on the Gadigal land of the Eora Nation, and we acknowledge any Aboriginal people online and their traditional rights and ownership over the land, and pay our respects to them and their future generations. We've got 3 sets of presentations today. The first one is the VET project, which Charlotte Demant Klinker will present, but she's in Denmark. She didn't come out to the ICO conference, so we have an 11-minute video that she's made. The second will be the co-op project from Steno Ostergaard from the Steno Diabetes Centre in Aarhus, which is the second biggest city in Denmark. And the third is the Generation Healthy Kids project from the Centre for Health Promotion and Research in Copenhagen. Professor Ulla, Toft and Blaedel Gottlieb Hansen will present from GHK. These are all health promotion projects that are starting out. So they're not going to give you results of the projects, but really show you how to design projects using real health promotion principles. What I mean by that is we've had the concept of a systems approach to health promotion dating back to the Ottawa Charter, to health in all policies, and to the Sustainable Development Goals. And we have it as our rhetoric in health promotion. But one of the things I experienced in spending the last 3 months in Denmark was what we have as rhetoric, they actually build into academic practice. And we're going to hear how you build systems approaches into health promotion program planning and evaluation in particular. So this is really at the planning stage of all 3 of these projects. A few concepts just to start off with. Municipalities in Denmark, when they mention municipalities, we should think about local health districts or regional health services. That's how it works, except there's no state level government in between. It's the national government and municipalities, so they have the autonomy that we would have at the state level with the region and size of a municipality. And that's where public health is delivered, that's where health services are delivered. So that's just a cultural translation of what municipalities mean. It means local health districts. Systems approaches is actually working within that framework, and an important message is that co-building systems approaches can happen alongside randomized controlled trials. It's not incompatible to have a systems approach with other designs nested within them. And one of these you'll hear about. We're going to have all 3 projects presented, and then we'll have some questions. So please pose questions in the chat. Yvonne Laird here will look at those questions and kind of keep a record of them, so we'll have them to answer afterwards. And everyone will speak for 10 to 15 minutes, so we'll be done by 1 p.m. That's really all from me. We're going to go over to Charlotte's presentation, which is a video about the VET study for the next 11 minutes.
Good day, everyone. My name is Child-COOP Demark Study, and I'm speaking to you from a summer house in Denmark, where I'm currently holidaying with my family. So all you'll have from me is my voice and a picture. In this short presentation, I will present the Data-Driven Health Promotion and Vocational Education and Training Study, which is a collaboration between the Health Promotion Research Unit at Steno Diabetes Centre Copenhagen, where I'm placed, and where we've had the honor to host Adrian during his recent stay in Denmark, and Steno Diabetes Centre Zealand. My short talk today will touch upon why it's important to work with vocational schools. I'll introduce our program and how we try to integrate a systems perspective into both our program and evaluation. In Denmark, vocational education, which are marked with yellow boxes, is an upper secondary education that you can enter either directly from lower secondary education or later in life as an adult. This means that the student's age varies between 15 to over 60 years old, with a mean age of around 24 years. It's an education that alters between school and work-based training, and it takes between 2 to 4 years to complete, and it qualifies predominantly for a specific trade, such as hairdresser, carpentry, or chef. It consists of more than 100 different educations that are organized into 4 main subject areas. Vocational schools is what I believe is equivalent to TAFE in Australia, and in Denmark it's considered a short education, and the student often comes from a low socioeconomic background. Further, in a recent national survey mapping health-related lifestyle and well-being, we found that a large proportion of the students already presents with an unhealthy lifestyle. And therefore we consider vocational schools as a setting with a large health promotion potential. In this survey, we were also able to demonstrate that the health behavior and well-being varies by type of education and geographical location. As of 2015, the vocational schools has been mandated to work with health promotion to reduce dropout. However, in the national survey among staff and management of schools, where we evaluated the health promotion capacity, we found that there is a lack of effective and coordinated programs that involve the local community and the municipality, and that there is a lack of capacity at the schools. So this is some of the backgrounds that we have incorporated into our program. So to the program. In the programs that we work with in my team, we consider public health as being shaped by a myriad of factors that interact with one another to cause health problems to occur and grow over time. And this means that we work with applying the systems perspectives in our programs. This also implies that our evaluation takes on system perspectives and that we're trying to develop and generate knowledge about whether the intervention or program that we're working with changes the systems that we are dealing with or interested in. And with this being said, I'll run to introduce our program. The aim of our program is to develop and test if the systems approach to promote health and well-being among vocational school students is sustainable, scalable, and effective. And further, we want to explore if this contributes towards reducing dropout and risk of non-communicable diseases. The study is situated in Denmark, and it takes place in collaboration with 5 municipalities, as the municipalities are the ones that are responsible for health promotion in Denmark. And we collaborate and test the program across 8 schools, 2 schools from each of the 4 main subject areas. As I've already mentioned, that we in our national health profile realized that the different 4 main subject areas attract students with different health profiles. For instance, within the care and health, a major concern is obesity, while when we look at the main subject technology, smoking is still a major concern. And this is how our program looks like. It takes place in 5 steps running during approximately 1 year, with the aim that if the program is sustainable, the steps will be integrated into routine praxis and be repeated. In step 1, collaboration between the municipality and the school is established, and the program managers from both schools and municipality appointed to work with the program, and proper resources are allocated that allows the schools and municipality to work with the program. In step 2, we conduct a local health profile among the students that shows the health and well-being profile. Then we conduct meetings with students and staff at 2 separate meetings where we present these data and where we discuss the data with the student and staff, and they point towards which health behavior they want to work with. And this can both relate to what they are motivated to work with, but also which health problem that is the most prominent at this school. The school and municipality chooses one health behavior to work with, and at the moment it is predominantly physical activity or mental well-being that the school chooses to work with. This health problem or behavior is the one that are being addressed in the rest of the steps. In step 3, it is a group model building process is conducted that runs over 3 workshops, and it involves students, staff, management, municipality and community stakeholders. And this group of people build a local systems map which points toward what drives the chosen health behavior at this school. Actions to change the system is identified, and working groups are formed to implement actions. This process is similar to the one that Jane will tell about or has already told about. In step 4, the working groups continues to implement and develop new actions. And in step 5, the involved stakeholders discusses how and if to proceed with the collaboration and program. This is the timeline for the program and evaluation, showing that 4 early starter schools are now in the implementation and diffusion phase, while the 4 schools that are late starter schools are at step 3 in the model. Our evaluation is a systems-based evaluation, but also drawing on ideas and methods from the theory-based research paradigm. And where we deem it possible, we also try to integrate components of effectiveness trials. For example, we have applied a step wedge design in our outcomes evaluation. This is a stripped version of our evaluation framework. This is what we call our initial systems logic model for the evaluation that builds upon an initial theory of change, which has been documented as a range of if-then statements in line with realist evaluation. I hope you will recognize the 5 steps which we consider the active ingredients in our program. These steps are hypothesized to trigger numerous mechanisms, which is shown as blue boxes. Once the mechanism have been triggered, they will lead to outcomes shown as green boxes. The red box indicate that we are aware of and will collect evidence on potential adverse mechanisms or outcomes. And this is the populated model, showing you the mechanisms and outcomes that we will investigate in our evaluation. Our primary focus and success is if we can document changes at the system level. which in our case has been defined as the school organizational readiness to work with health promotion, the upper green box, and the mechanisms related to this outcome. Our evaluation is structured into 4 different studies highlighted with light blue bubbles, each with their own research questions and methods, while still acknowledging that there is overlap between the studies. We use both quantitative and qualitative methods, and unfortunately, I don't have time to go into much details. So for now, I'll just share a bit about how we document implementation and diffusion of the developed and implemented actions. This is done through interviews with people who work with developing and implementing the actions, and this is done every second month for 2 years, and where we, for instance, integrate perspective from the involvement matrix and ripple effects mapping. My time is up, and for more details, we are in the process of finalizing our protocol for the evaluation, and hopefully this will be published early next year. I would like to acknowledge the people in my team that works within this program.
Okay, we're going to move on to Jane, who'll talk about the co-op project.
All related programs.
Yep, Jane. This one's not black.
Yeah, thank you very much for letting me have this talk today. Charlotte just told you about the web study, and that is actually running for some years now. This project is all new and just got funds 1 month ago, so it's very much in the planning phase. And I haven't even put a partner slide in. I just put one. So it's a huge collaboration study between the Perkins University in Australia, us at Steno Diabetes Centre Aarhus, and also the Diabetes Centre in Zealand and Copenhagen, and also the Aarhus University, and then 5 municipalities as well. So the name of the study is the Child-COOP Demark Study, and it's promoting physical activity, behavior, and treatment ages 6 to 12 years, and it's a 3-year system dynamics trial. And it's a fuller system approach. And I haven't put the background slides either, but it's because we see in Denmark that we have a high proportion of children not being as physical active as they were before, and also that we have a huge dropout when they turn 13 to 12 to 13 years. So we would really like this. And see the overall aim is to evaluate if this approach can promote, and by that we mean both increase. So we have a high proportion doing physical activity earlier in life, but also sustain that they do not drop out later, so they can get this healthy physical activity and 6 to 12-year-old school children in local communities in Denmark, and it's actually in. Okay, we look in the municipalities. We find local communities that we use for this, and we have 4 sub-aims, and one of them is this one with measuring the effectiveness of this trial by assessing these changes in time spent on sedentary time and time spent on light, moderate, and vigorous intensity after these 3 years follow-up. But we also look at these changes at systems level, such as this, with the changes in community systems, the community network structure, at policy level and also the practice after this time or after this follow-up. And then I don't talk that much about that today, but we also identify these health economic implications by doing this. And along the line, we do process evaluation and we'll try to map a finance systems program theory about this, what works for whom under which circumstances. So this was just to show you, just so Denmark before, and here's just another map of Denmark, and the different colors, the different regions in Denmark. So this project is run in 3 different regions. So these circles is the municipalities, and the dots is the intervention communities and the control communities. And the orange dot is the feasibility community, where we have actually worked for the last 1 to 2 years doing a feasibility test of this before we do this larger study. So I have said this, but this is currently under testing in Hansen. It was the feasibility study that I just talked about. And it's very much, it's strongly building on the Australian experiences. It's actually because we thought that we would like to do if you know the food stops here from Australia, we would try to do that in Denmark. So Stephen Allen is also one of the co-PIs for this project. And we initiated the feasibility study in 2021, and we did the first baseline measure there, and then the first result of that will come next year, and then we will also have a follow-up in 2025. But now we're starting this study on top of that. So we use group model building, as Charlotte just mentioned as well, where we support the work of local communities, organizations, and large groups working with these complex challenges through this oriented approach. And we do it to create engagement and support across these sectors, and try to identify the different perspectives and where they can find solutions together. And we use Sticker as a tool, and Sticker is invented by Steve and colleagues in Australia, and we use that tool for this work as well. And there's different things in that, so some of you may have heard about. And we have done our own Danish translation of this, so we can show it to the municipalities when we start working. So this is some of the individual outcomes that we will look at, and that we have these questionnaires when we start up and also follow up. And we would, but the physical activity and sedentary behavior we would measure by accelerometers, or what we call them, these activity meters. And we also have these physical literacies. They do different stuff in the gym, so we can see and measure their physical literacy. And then we have these others also anthropometry, which will measure from out. And at the community outcomes, we look at the readiness to change and social network analysis, how many actions that have been implemented in the different communities, and also these changes in the system maps. So this is actually the same where Charlotte showed it just in another form, but we had these 3 workshops, and before the first workshop we have done the baseline measures. So we have the different results we come with for the first workshop to show how the different measures of the children are before we start working with the communities. And we do these the CLDs, the causal loop diagrams, and then after the 3 workshops we go into the action phase, and that's where we are right now with the feasibility study. And if we look at it in another way, this is actually the same slide, just shown in another way. So first, what do we know about physical activity behavior in that community? And we work with them to understand the determinants of the intervention community. So they are doing these graphs over time, maps. It's trying to see this bigger picture of their local problems. And this is actually just what the sticky does, trying to put these different variables together so we can create these maps of postal group diagrams to see where can we find ways to solutions. So this is just to show you the map from the feasibility study, and this is in Danish, so you will probably not see any of it. And this is after 1 year, and you can see those out at the what is that for you? The right side, where we have these where they are not colored through. There you can see some of the solutions that have started to come here after 1.5 years in this community. And what I didn't say from the start is this: we have designed this as a waiting list study. So we have 5 intervention studies that we go into first, and we also measured in the control studies from the start, but they would just have the intervention within 4 years. Thank you.
Next, we have the Generation Healthy Kids project. Where they go? You know, I'll let you see there. This one. Share again. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I just, I don't know if you can see me, but I hope so. Hopefully you can hear me. I'll just start by saying thank you for the invitation. We have been collaborating with Adrian a lot, and we have 2 presenters today. I'll just start by saying that actually we are very inspired by the work going on in Australia. So we actually feel like a little underdog, maybe. At least we are underdog in the way that we have a much smaller country, but we just this year got funding for this project, Generation Healthy Kids, that we will just talk about. Just starting by just saying where we come from. You probably don't know our center, so I'll just briefly say that we are from Anders and I am from the Center of Clinical Research and Prevention in Copenhagen, Denmark, and we are around 120 researchers, and we are divided into 4 sections. I'm the leader of section of health promotion and prevention, and this is most of the people in the section. We work a lot with applied and practice-based research, working together with municipalities or NGOs or so on. So and we have a lot of experts, especially within complex interventions and the co-creation, partnerships, and so on. I'm saying this because we would like to invite you to collaborate. We see a lot of things that are similar in Denmark and Australia, except that we are much smaller, but you have the same approach as we have often, and we learn a lot from your work. So this generation Healthy Kids, just a brief background. We have less problems with obesity and overweight in Denmark than in Australia, but still we see that among children that start in school and among the children that stop in elementary school, there's a marked increase in both overweight and obesity. And we also see this market social inequality. So the dark red is those children that grow up among high socioeconomic status parents, and the blue bar is children growing up with low socioeconomic status. So we see this very steep social inequality in Denmark too. Recently we did this, you can read it, but I have translated this work, a review where we looked at the evidence regarding prevention of overweight among children and adolescents. And what we found and concluded was that there was actually we wanted to prevent obesity among children. There were already many previous interventions, but they show little or no effects. Our conclusion based on that is that we need new approaches. We need to do something else than we have done. A lot of times, I think we found maybe 68 randomized control trials that did it very, very well, but they actually only found a little effect on obesity or overweight measures. So our hypothesis is that we actually need to add the systems approach and the community capacity building to hope to find an effect that is better than what we see at the moment. But we also have an interest in trying to actually evaluate and make a strong validate or a strong validity among the evaluation or for the evaluation. We also want to learn from the earlier studies, so therefore we looked at what characterized the few studies that were actually effective. And what characterized those was that they were made in multiple settings, so it was not only school-based. They used multiple components, so they also worked with several different health behaviors. They combined the educational components with the more structural components and trying to build healthy environments. They were long-term, at least 12 months. Probably it was better to be 2 or 3 years. They targeted the children all around, not, as I said, not only the school, and they used co-creation and involved a lot of stakeholders. So based on that, we want to do this Generation Health Kids. It's a school and local community-based project that involves national and local stakeholders. The aim is to promote healthy weight development and well-being among children aged 6 to 9 years, and we want to increase the social equality and health. We were supported. I tried to make it Australian dollars, 70 million Australian dollars from Novo Nordisk Fund. So it's a quite large project. This is a picture of the happy researchers that we got the funding this spring. So we are very happy, and it's both from the University of Copenhagen and University of Southern Denmark, and then the Center of Clinical Research and Prevention. And we have expertise within a broad range of relevant areas. So the target group, just about the design, the target group is 1st and 2nd grade. So when they are starting in the school, we have 24 local communities that we will include, and also 2 pilot areas. We expect to include around 2,500 children, and we will do this as a cluster randomized controlled trial with 12 expansion schools and communities and 12 control, and they will be spread in Denmark, in southern Denmark and the capital region. We are started now by developing, and we will run a pilot study at the beginning of next year, and then the main study will be 2 school years, starting from next autumn, maybe September, but after our school holiday, which ends in August, so just after the school holiday. And this the approach that we chose to have was a combination, or is a combination of the systems approach and the cluster randomized control trial. So that's the new thing here. That's how we try to build a very strong evaluation with a systems approach and with involving national stakeholders. And we combine co-created elements with predefined elements. And the predefined elements, we chose them from the literature. What do we know already that works? And then we combine that with co-created elements. And we combine both environmental or structural interventions or actions with community and individual or teaching elements. And then we go into both food and nutrition, physical activity, sleep, screen time, and well-being overall. So it's an intervention where we combine fixed elements, co-creation, and a systems approach. And just to illustrate, we try to make an intervention that go all around the children, using both the school, the home or the family, involving the family and the local communities. And this also includes the supermarkets, the restaurants, the sports, all the different places where the children can go to sports and so on, and the national level. So we try to, and when we do this, we will use what we call the super setting approach. That's approach we developed earlier, where we try to make synergistic effects so that we're not just working in one, for example, school separately and the local communities separately, but we try to integrate them and make them work together at just between the settings. I could talk about that for half an hour, but just to say that this is also maybe something that is different from what you do or have used before. And then we combine this with a national level and a local level. And Anders will talk more about that.
Thank you very much, Ulla. Thank you for hosting this seminar. Thank you for listening out there. I will briefly touch upon the national level that Ulla mentioned before. And we want to do a co-creation with national stakeholders. And why do we want to do that? Of course, we want to create a shared understanding, and we want to give everyone a voice and a sense of ownership. And to do that, we need a format that activates these kind of mechanisms to get the outcomes we want to the right side of the figure you can see here. We also wanted to develop intervention components outside the school setting, focusing more on the structural determinants of childhood obesity, changing the environmental drivers, social, cultural, physical, and economic, and maybe also political drivers. And furthermore, we wanted to engage the national stakeholders and also to build a kind of a compelling narrative. Why should they join into this project? Why is it everyone's responsibility to address the problem of childhood obesity? And Jane already explained about the stick, but we have planned for 2 workshops here in this forum, and they are inspired by system thinking. The first workshop we already conducted, where we did a system map using the same software as James Sticky, and also used the group model building as a facilitation approach. And the second workshop will be in a couple of weeks. We will try to get the stakeholders to prioritize areas to intervene in the local system and propose collaborative and aligned actions. Quite a great condition, I would say. And here are the same papers as Jane mentioned, so I won't go into any detail with them. Here are some pictures from the first workshops, where we succeeded in gathering a lot of different stakeholders from the national level. And our approach, instead of the original scripted approach, as Jane mentioned, for 3 workshops, we have tried to modify the concept using only 2 workshops. The first workshop where we do the system mapping, the mapping of the existing initiatives, and also a so-called power to change exercise. And in the next workshops, we will present the model developed between the workshops. We will have a discussion about the model, the system map, and we will generate and share these action ideas, which hopefully can be implemented as kind of interventions on a national level. But I think the most important question here is to ask these 2 questions. How can we engage communities in actions to change the local systems? And how can we understand this term called capacity building, which means to facilitate resource mobilization and the creation of partnerships in the community? And of course, there's no easy and simple answer to these questions, but we're looking very much also towards Stephen Allen, as Jane mentioned, and he's got these 5 steps also from the Toft study. And I will not read them up for you, but I will just read up the quote from Stephen Allen to the right, where he says, "The dose, the magic, the thing in the spoon was in fact the local community taking ownership and leadership of the response to the problem." That's our challenge here in the upcoming months. How should we design the capacity building? So using these 5 steps in order to get this ownership.
I'm not sure if I'm sitting right now, but just to show you the timeline of the project, which, as I said before, we start with the pilot study. Just we're working very hard to be ready for that. And then we start the cluster randomized, and just to show how where these so at the moment we are working with the national stakeholders, and they this work will fit into the more fixed part of the intervention, so that we can actually make an intervention where we know what we're going to do in 12 areas. But we also make this community capacity building within each of the local communities. And we will build or create local community groups that will be responsible for implementing, or both developing, implementing, and trying to make it a sustainable effort within the local communities. So we have like a traditional evaluation using the cluster randomized study, RCT or randomized controlled study. Our primary outcome is fat mass after 2 school years, and we compare, like you do in this kind of studies, the intervention group, the 12 intervention areas with the 12 control groups, or 12 control areas. And then we have a lot of different measurements, and it's very heavy on measurements, this project. I feel a little bad for the children. I hope they will manage, but it's just, yeah, there's a lot of engaged researchers, and they all want to know a lot of things. Just one mark we have in Denmark, we have a lot of focus on stigmatization and preventing this focus on weight. So, for example, the children will not know their weights, so they will be we will weigh them with their back to the measurement, so they won't know what they weigh. That's just one of the ways that we try to not make this project that's focused a lot of weight, but more on well-being and playing and so on. So when we are researchers, we focus on weight and measurements, but when we go to the schools and the local communities, it's well-being, it's healthy kids, it's nothing about weight. This is just a discussion that is going on in Denmark. But we also know that, so we of course also need to know a lot about the process and the program and how it's working. There will be a rather huge process evaluation using interviews, questionnaires, observations. We will measure on the implementation, as you often do in this kind of project. We will be interested in the acceptability, how the context, how does the context work, what is the causal mechanisms, and so on. We will also measure partnerships using the big health, also here from Australia. We are not that inventive, we look a lot to your work. But then we have this community capacity building, where we try to take the local context into account. It's important that there will be an ownership within each of the local communities. But of course, the intervention in each local intervention area will be different. So, but the process is standardized. So we will do the community capacity building will be done in using the same processes, but we expect, of course, the intervention will be different. That's why we need to be able to evaluate on this too. For this, we are inspired by this work, tracking implementation within a community-led whole of systems approach and so on. Here in Sydney, you might, I think you know it maybe. We will go into measuring, both making an action research where we register each distinct action. We look at these causal loop diagrams that will be built, and we try to measure on each of these activities and put them. If the new activities are coming, the causal loop diagram will develop and increase. We will also look at the geographical locations of the intervention. We will measure the stakeholder engagement, register the number of action each stakeholder is participating in, and so on. We will also measure the relative engagement level using the engagement score that is developed in this study too. And we will look at this communication log. So that's a huge work that we plan to do within evaluation of this. And just to show you that this is from this publication, where they actually try to measure over time the development, both in engagement and activities at different in the school and the communities and among key leaders. And I think this is actually a tool that we need, because it's difficult for us to evaluate if we do not have some standardized development tools. So that was all about this project. We haven't got any results yet, but we are keen to have questions or comments. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Ulla, Anders, and Jane. All those three projects were controlled. They were either quasi-experimental or a cluster RCT, but were surrounded by systems-based evaluation methods, both quantitative and qualitative, embedded throughout the evaluation process. And that's different because it's both rigorous science and rigorous process evaluation to understand what's going on. So that was an excellent presentation of how to do health promotion planning better than we generally do it in Australia. So I think that's an important message. But any questions for our Danish visitors on the chat, Yvonne?
Yeah, speaking to them, there's one for Ulla to ask if the cohort includes children with disabilities.
Yeah, it does, but probably not many, because it will be like an ordinary school in a municipality. So there might be children with disabilities, but it's not special schools that we include.
Other questions from the chat?
There's another question in the chat. Can you tell us more about the engagement score?
Yeah, it's like there's I think there's six levels. If you I haven't got it's like if they are only just doing a little thing, maybe that just write an email or they participate in a meeting, or and then you can, if they actually lead an activity, or so there's six different levels where you can score the degree of engagement. I think it's rather easy. I can't remember all the steps, but it's rather easy to try to score them using these steps. So I think it's a quite good publication I would recommend.
There's not any more questions in the chat. So if anyone has any in the room.
Any other questions from the room or online in the chat now?
Very fundamental question, Ulla. Thank you very much, everybody. Very fundamental. Can you hear me? How did you get $17 million? What did you do to actually get to that point? I know that that's a good question that I'm just interested in.
Actually, this was a little different because we knew we have Novo Nordisk Foundation in Denmark, and we knew that they were coming up with this large fund where they wanted to give money for a project within schools and children and preventing overweight. And then actually we were 3 girls that sat together and said we would like to give our idea for this fund and for the $17 million or US million. Oh no, sorry, Australian. And then we actually approached the Novo Nordisk Foundation and asked if we could present our idea. And they listened to our idea and they said, that's nice. And then we didn't hear anything for some months. And then they were actually trying to put a team. So they invited some other researchers. We were mostly into nutrition. And they invited some people that could do something about physical activity, screen time, and sleep. And they set the team and invited. So that was how we became the four research collaborating team.
But it was a complex marriage because you've got basic scientists, exercise scientists, and basic nutrition scientists who want to do a cluster randomized control trial with fat mass as the primary outcome. And you've got community systems thinking who want to put stuff around that to make it more than just the in-school intervention or what they described as the fixed components. And those two things together convinced the funders that this was a good idea because it was better than usual practice.
So the core design really very much happened with the funders, I guess, influence and engagement to a certain extent.
No, the Novo Nordisk Fund did not. They said that they had some things they wanted to do. It should be school, and then there was some other. They wanted it to be a randomized control trial, but they sent it to reviewers, international reviewers, and to our surprise, because I thought when I did this that it would be very much a randomized control trial and not that much systems approach and co-creation. But to my surprise, positively, the reviewers said you should do more co-creation, you should do more systems approach. And then I got to expand that part. So that was really nice, but it was of course in a dialogue with the foundation because they knew what they wanted, but we have created it on our own, I would say, and they are not interfering with our processes, but they would follow us, of course. But yeah.
Another question?
Yeah, there's a follow-up question in the chat. Are you expected or required to show returns on that investment, on the 70 million investment? Are you?
Is there an economic analysis?
Yeah, we hope to do that. I think we have included it, but it's not a huge part of this expansion. Actually, we are doing this pilot and they want to see how the pilot is going. So that's a way that they have promised they will not stop, but they will at least say that we need to look at the pilot and then evaluate if we need to do something else. And one of the things that I could hope a little just between us is that that there might be a clear idea that it's too many measurements. So we need to cut down on them. And that's the positive thing about having a pilot so that you can actually evaluate if this is a realistic approach.
I have a practical question. So I was really intrigued by how you managed to marry the system-based co-creation approach with pastoral schedule trials. I always thought they're mutually exclusive, these two type of approaches. So it's really good to see you attempting that. But practically, systems are messy, and the co-creation process within each community, you might get very different approaches.
Yeah.
That requires different timelines, different budget. How do you manage that as a project when you, especially when you have to demonstrate, record the budget balance and demonstrate effects in the short term and long term? How do you do that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And actually, I'm a little unsure what will happen, but we have tried this before where we actually tried to do like we know we could do the process, we could do it standardized, as I said, and we can also formulate some targets, so we can say we want to prevent overweight among children. We want to focus on physical activity, diet, screen time, and sleep. That's given, you could say. So in that way, we try to make it a little more alike, but still it can develop and it can be very different which kind of stakeholders in each community that will be involved. But it's just, if we just continue doing the same thing on and on again, we need to do something new. And yeah, so I hope that by also measuring very intense on the process and on the local communities, that we can also have some answers. What is important? Which communities did well, and some of them maybe didn't succeed. What was difference? So that's one of the things. So maybe it's not so much that we have an effect on weight, yes or no, but it's more all different complex processes that we will see. But hopefully we will see an effect on fat mass. But
if the community says, "Oh, I think we need a tool."
We may be running out of time. Sorry to curtail and to continue the talk in the room afterwards. Any quick questions online?
Well, we have a few more that we can get.
Okay, let's try and do them quickly.
Yeah, one more online question, maybe. So someone's asked if you are planning to engage the control group following the intervention or at a later point.
Yeah, we have discussed a lot what to do about the control group. We hope that we could get money to actually take the intervention we have developed, if it's successful, implemented in the control group or the control areas. But we are not able to promise that because we do not have the money, but that would be one of the things that I would discuss with, or we would like to discuss with the Novo Nordisk Foundation. Would there be any possibility to actually, but we can't do it with the money we have now and the time frame. Yeah.
One more quick one.
So someone's just clarifying your measures for community capacity building, partnerships and engagement, any other measures for community work that you're using?
Any other community level measures? Apart from the-
Apart from those I described, yeah. I haven't got all the things into the slides. We will do a lot of measurements on the community level. At the moment, I'm not sure how many we will be able to do because there's so many things we would like to know. So I think during the pilot study, we will be better at prioritizing, because I think we have too high ambitions. So that we will use the pilot study to actually. But if there's any ideas, I forgot to say that we are very happy to hear ideas what to measure.
Okay, I'm gonna have to call a close to the online part because we're just over the hour, but we'll continue the discussion internally. Thank you all online for participating. I hope you were able to hear most of it. If you send questions by email to me or Lisa, we'll try and get them answered in the next couple of days. And would it be okay to make a PDF of your slides and send them around?
Yeah.
Okay.
Someone was asking about sharing the recording.
We'll certainly be able to share at least the slides, if not the recording from Lisa. Thanks everyone for joining from all over the place. Goodbye, bye-bye for now. Melody.